Merrick Stone signed the final document with a flourish, his sapphire-encrusted pen skittering across the page that dissolved our 5-year union. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 48th floor atrium, a nor'easter raged, smearing the Chicago skyline into a watercolor of gray. The silence between us was glacial. He never glanced my way. Instead, he tapped his titanium smartwatch, a device worth more than my graduate degree, and immediately began texting. I knew the recipient, Alara. They had a villa waiting in St. Bart's. There, he said, shoving the papers across the onyx table. It's finished. You have 3 weeks to clear out of the Sky Terrace apartment, Isla. I'm listing it. The market won't wait for sentiment. He stood, straightening his cashmere suit, his gaze dismissing me like outdated inventory. Try a walk-up in the Arts District, he added, his tone slick with counterfeit concern. It's more authentic to your little world of books and bones. He reached for his overcoat, already mentally aboard his chartered jet. He believed he was the hero of the story, the ruthless VP of acquisitions shedding a dull, academic wife to ascend unfettered. He had no clue he'd been pacing a gilded cage of my design for years. Sit down, Mr. Stone. The mediator, Judge Alistair Vance, did not raise his voice. It was a quiet, tectonic sound. He'd presided over the dissolution of fortunes and seen titans crumble. He had no reverence for men who mistook ambition for altitude. Merrick paused, irritation creasing his brow. My flight is waiting. This is concluded. The dissolution is signed, Judge Vance corrected, placing a sealed parchment envelope on the table. But asset division requires full transparency of all material financial changes. And as of 96 hours ago, your wife's financial profile has been fundamentally altered.
Marek scoffed.
Did your aunt leave you her porcelain figurines, Isla? Enjoy them. I want nothing from your world. Just my freedom. I remained silent. I studied him, the way he diminished my past, my family, the very foundation his presence stood upon. Judge Vance cracked the emerald wax seal. The snap echoed. This is the testamentary execution for the estate of the late Eleanor Thorne. He read, his eyes scanning the elegant script. As the sole direct heir, complete stewardship of the Thorne Legacy Trust has been transferred to Isla Thorne. Merrick checked his phone, a bored smirk playing on his lips. Lovely. Buy yourself a new library, Isla. Are we done? The trust, Judge Vance continued, his voice deepening, holds a controlling stake in a private consortium valued at approximately $207 billion. Marek's thumb froze mid-swipe. The heir left the room. 200, and that's impossible. The holdings include Ethelgard Industries, Viridian Shipping, the judge read on, and the majority controlling interest in Blackstone Holdings Group. Merrick turned ashen. Blackstone wasn't just a company. It was the parent entity that owned the acquisition firm where Merrick was a rising star. It was the architect of the very tower we occupied. There's been an error, he stammered, arrogance fracturing. Blackstone is governed by a silent board. The chair is a figurehead of V. Thorne. Vance, I said, my voice calm, filling the space his shock had vacated. It was the first word I'd spoken.
Isla Vance Torne.
V. Thorne was the administrative alias. He stared, his eyes desperately searching my face for the quiet woman who curated ancient maps and made his dinner reservations. She was gone. You despised V. Thorne, I continued, leaning forward slightly. Your internal reports called the chair a regressive obstructionist, a sentimental anchor dragging on progress. For 3 years, you petitioned to bypass my strict ethical investment protocols. You were lobbying your wife, Merrick, and losing. The silence was no longer empty. It was a vacuum, pulling all his certainty out of him. He wasn't processing heartbreak. He was recalculating his entire life's trajectory with a catastrophic new variable, me. 10 minutes later, in the back of my car, my phone chimed. A headline from a finance tabloid he revered blazed on my screen. Is Thorne Legacy in peril? Emotional heiress sparks leadership crisis. The article, citing anonymous insiders, painted me as an unhinged, scorned woman weaponizing a dynasty. His text followed instantly. You hold the deeds, Isla. But I hold the story. Crash the stock 5% by open, and the board will oust you before sunrise. Settle. Give me the exit package, or I'll bury your family's name in scandal. I felt no rage, only a crystalline focus. He'd chosen his battlefield. Reputation. A historian's specialty is excavating truth. I didn't reply. I logged into the Blackstone Sovereign server and sent one directive. Initiate level 10 forensic audit on all VP-level financial reporting and external communications. Full isolation and mirroring, effective immediately. He wanted a war of whispers. I declared a war of evidence. The confrontation wasn't in a boardroom, but in the sterile, humming server vault. My forensic specialist, Lynn, connected a silver drive, given up by a terrified Alara who'd thought she was trading gossip for mercy. The smear campaign files are here, Lynn said, her screen glowing. But this is a full system dump. He backed up his entire leverage folder. Her fingers flew across the keys. Look. His reported portfolio growth metrics for the European assets, they triggered his maximum bonus. But the actual capital flow records show a consistent 18% deficit. He's been phantom profiting, marking speculative futures as realized gains to inflate his numbers. He's been siphoning from the risk mitigation fund to cover the shortfall. It was more than deceit, it was securities fraud. Find the 2022 executive contract, I said, a cold clarity settling over me. The one he authored.
The
Stonewall Clause. Lynn found it. I read the clause he'd penned to eliminate a competitor. Any officer engaged in data manipulation for compensatory gain forfeits all severance, bonuses, and unvested equity. Termination is for cause. He'd built his own gallows. When he strode into the final meeting, he was ready to negotiate his ransom. $5 million, full equity vesting, a glowing recommendation, he declared. My offer expires in 60 seconds. I pressed a button. The screen illuminated not with a counteroffer, but with side-by-side financials, his reported gains versus the verified bank trails. Then, I slid a single page toward him, the Stonewall Clause, with his bold signature at the bottom. The color drained from his face completely. The grandstanding CEO vanished, leaving a hollow man staring at the ruins of his own design. The $5 million parachute, the vested shares, his entire professional future, vanished by his own hand. Security, I said softly into the intercom. Mr. Stone is leaving.
permanently.
He offered no resistance as they let him out. The door sealed shut on the silence, a silence I now owned. The storm outside was clearing. The foundation, my foundation, was solid. And the narrative was finally mine to write.